Sheila, Oglesby, Shelby, and Carla.
Shelby will not be here.
Okay, so. Carla. Now, did I call you? Oh, yeah, I did. Okay. So Mike, I did tell Mike we're down in the computer lab.
Is he coming?
Yeah, oh,
He's
no,
out.
he's already.
Okay, so we got Ruth. Sheila's in our room. Okay, all right, well, good afternoon. We are having our, kind of bi-monthly student accountability meeting, and I know some of you are new to this, so welcome, Ms. Walker. So we're just gonna start off talking about giving you some updates on curriculum. When we went to the accountability summit and the quarterly curriculum directors meeting last week, we are looking at applying for the LASSO 4 grant. That entails a whole lot of things, but it is more support, and we would be able to get the high school math with the LASSO 4 grant. The 165, they were just giving criteria for schools who have 165 calendar days, so that since we are 5 days a week, we would probably have a better chance of getting in some of the 4-day work weeks. And then we did talk about implementing the Bluebonnet math. It'll go all the way through Algebra 2 at the high school next year. Eduphoria, Axiom, that's something I think some of you brought to Dr. Trimmel. We did purchase the Eduphoria Premium this year, so we can do a lot more with the data that we have. We can go in and check to make sure that our assessments are aligned with the STAR assessment at the end of the year. And so that's something I'm ready to kind of start playing around on, because we've had some assessments at the middle school already. And then IXL for the high school, Mr. Drummond got 125 or 150 licenses for that, for our,
It's for all subjects.
okay, but for our House Bill 1416?
Yes.
Because you all didn't have an intervention piece, right?
Correct. And this is gonna go for our lab classes, for Algebra 1, Biology, and English. And then we're implementing a before school section for the incoming 9th graders that we have.
And did we buy that just for 1 year? Or did
It's
we-
for 3.
3 years.
And they made a deal because at first, and that was my miscommunication,
yeah.
it was just for the Algebra 1, but then Caroline actually helped us and kept with the same deal, and we got 150.
Well, hopefully next year, if we get the LASSO 4 grant, that is something we could purchase, IXL for all the high school as well. And Sheila, I don't know, do you have anything to add? You're kind of our.
Well, the LASSO 4 grant, there's like 13 different parts to it, and we're looking more at 3 parts, but we have some webinars to go to and some things. But basically, it extends the support of Bluebonnet and other HQIM. So it gives us more support for all of those implementation pieces for more than just 1 year.
Yeah. And do you mind if I, expand on that Eduphoria Axiom?
I don't know.
Okay, so, some of us were able to go to the accountability, conference last week, and we all went to different sessions, and so that way we could collaborate. And so the 2 sessions that I went to, one of them was by the Wolf City, middle school principal, and another one was by a Royce City middle school principal, and they were in the same spot as we were, low scores or wanting to improve. One of them really was, I think they had gotten a D or an F, and they had moved up to like a C or a B. And one of the principals said, what I realized is when they kept telling me, all you gotta do is target kids, but sometimes we don't know which kids. And we have a good clue on which kids. At the same time, when we're doing our assessments, we can really track our kids, and it made sense, because the other day when we were in our meeting, they kept saying, all you need is like, 10 more kids in the areas.
Mhm.
So, thank you to Sheila. I brought it back, Jeannie and Sheila, everybody was sitting there. And I found the person at Region 10 who's gonna provide our support. And what I mean by that is we're gonna have a principal training, so that way y'all can know how to do the reports. Honestly, I can't show you. And the Eduphoria Axiom is a more of a product than what we've already, purchased. And both principals said they use this particular extension of Eduphoria, so that, we're gonna try, and they'll come to us. We don't have to go to Region 10. What's her name, Penny? Penny, and Sheila will put that, talk and converse with Penny, but we'll get that there. We'll have them bring it here to Commerce. And I truly believe that's a piece of the puzzle that we need to get tighter in saying, yes, this X student, and then being able to tell or show, or even have our teachers be able to run some of these reports so they know this student is really going to hurt us. This was coupled with, on the results-driven accountability, we are the first time in the 10 years I've worked here, a level 3, high priority with our EB students. And so Lisa Burden and I were gonna reach out to, I think her name's Zaida, who's over the EB department. Because what that means is, remember how we're doing a student support plan for our discipline with the African Americans? Well, now we're gonna have to do a student support plan with, I'm assuming, this is me, Hispanics with our EB. Somewhere they did not grow like they've had in the past. So, this will all be good to, figure out. This week, I've already reached out to the middle school. I'm coming over to Sunjay because I wanna find out, I wanna, do a deeper dive. Is it students that we have exited and they're monitored, but really, does monitored mean they still count? I don't know, so we're gonna have to find out some answers. I'm not concerned, like Burden knows because she goes, she hears, she knows. Gongaware is at CES is identifying kids. I will come to the high school. Who's your?
Rachel Tenorilla
Okay.
and Shelby.
And I will, that may not be this week, it might be after break, but I will get with them so we can track and figure out, is it those kids? I don't know. But once we find out which kids they are, once again, we hone in on them and we can hopefully have them show growth to where we get off the RDA report too. So it's all a big,
It will definitely help us
Umbrella.
better track, and
Yeah.
then we can be more proactive instead of reactive, because we can monitor as we assess throughout the school year. So then that brings us to the Accountability Summit. Sheila and I also attended, a conference or a session where Terrell ISD presented, and they got very strategic and aligned and did lots of wonderful things. Didn't happen overnight, but, they shared some ideas that we brought back. One of the things is wildly important goals, and that has to be something district-wide, and I know Mr. Drummond's got some things he wants to share a little later on in our meeting. But also, how are we tracking progress? Because they talked about that. At the district level, we need to be tracking and sharing out. At the campus level, at the student level, and I know the middle school's got some things going on with that already with students. So just lots of things coming out of the Accountability Summit where we want to get better. So that brings us to a presentation that I have in an attempt to help us as a district to better align. We are thankful that we have Mr. Drummond, who is so focused on growing our students academically. So we are fortunate in that area, and so we're just gonna try to get some things going, because everybody's working hard, but we've just gotta start working smarter, not harder. So, sorry, I forgot my little clicker in the car.
Yeah, I'm trying to get what Copeland's head's not right down there, right there. I'll get there eventually. Here, come on. Sorry, Copeland.
I was just wondering, I was like, what are you doing?
You're coming over on you.
On the screen, that's
When I get at a game and somebody sits in front of me, I have to move every time. I
And
can't-
then just present on.
There we go, full screen. Okay, so, Mr. Drummond has made inspiring excellence, our motto for this year. So that's kind of what I put in here. So let's start off with some good things though. What are some good things that you see happening on your campus? Or something new you learned that you think is really great and you wanna share when we were Region 10 last week?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I walked the entire district while y'all were gone Wednesday, and I stayed behind for the, bus activities session. But, I looked in every window in every building in the classroom, walked in a few, and with all you gone, your campuses were still working and teaching, and that's a positive sign. I feel like our motivation, or maybe our sense of urgency, has reached a lot of our teachers at least. So, I was impressed by what I saw, and I appreciate that.
Good job, guys. Ladies, I guess we'll have gentlemen here at the moment. Anything else anyone wants to share? Good thing?
I've seen some of our harder behavior kids, the teachers are really, like, I got called down because a student was cussing at a teacher and he was giving the business. But when I got down there, she had him in the room and she was like going through breathing with him, and like he was crying, but it wasn't like her going at him, she was helping him cope with the anger. And so I just sat out across the hall and watched, and then I was like, she walked him down the lunch, she said, "You good?" She said, "Yeah," and then I left. Like, they didn't need me, but I went down there ready to get this kid, and
I love that.
she helped him cope, and it was the sweetest thing.
No office referral,
No,
no
there
out
was
of
nothing.
placements, no
She was
nothing.
kind of like,
Yay.
"Why are you down here?" You know?
Good.
But yeah, it was very sweet. And then another one of our harder ones, he came to the office heated. The teacher showed up a minute later, and she's like, "Can we go in there?" They went, and he came out, was happy as a lark. So they're really, focusing on the relationship, not passing it off, and building those strong relationships.
And I know, being on that campus, we kind of harped on that for a while, so I'm excited to hear that, you know, some of them are taking that to heart and working on it. Okay, anybody else before we move on? I know we only have an hour, sorry. Okay, so we'll move on. So I started, when I looked at this model, that a framework we're gonna go through, thinking about inspiring excellence, what does that mean? And so this goes along with it. I thought it fit both perfectly well. It's continuously evaluating our practices and seeking opportunities for improvement. And I think that's the direction. I mean, is that pretty close, Mr. Drummond, to what you're envisioning for our district?
Yes,
Okay,
it's the reason we're all in this room together.
okay.
Uh,
So,
We have to look at what we're doing regularly and be able to modify as needed on the fly.
and feedback, that's very, very important. So, as we go through this year, as we talk about inspiring excellence, and parents says, what does that mean? Well, that means we're continuously looking at what we're doing, and we're finding opportunities to make it better, you know? Because that's how we're gonna get there. So previously in our, meetings, our SAM meetings as we call them, we've talked about, okay, we gotta do PBIS, and we've gotta get classroom expectations, and we've got to get an alignment with all of the things curriculum, and, we need district-wide lesson plans and district-wide, processes for special pops and training and PD, but where do we start? That's a lot of things, is it not? Does it feel overwhelming? So, that's what we're going to work on. We've gotta find those big rocks to inspire that learning and excellence, but we've got to come up with a systematic way, and I think that's one of the things that we've been lacking here in Commerce in the past, is not really having a clear system for some of these things. So this is a visual. The Baldrige framework is the one that we did in our class, and you all will answer some questions, but this is kind of their visual, I didn't make this up, where, you know, we're reacting to the problem. You know, we're always just putting out fires. Raise your hand if you feel like you put out a couple of fires today already. Yes. So, and we're reactive, and we mentioned that earlier. But we want to improve, you know, our orientation. So it says, you know, so then you'll install a few more fire hoses and get to them a little bit quicker. You know, think about something on your campus you've done, kind of add another fire hose, but we're still putting out those fires. I mean, it's helping, but it's not where we want to be, is it? The systematic evaluation and improvement, that's where, you know, you have to find out where's that fire gonna happen, and put some sprinklers in there to help out with that. So it's kind of like, I think what Ms. Copeland said, those teachers are meeting with those kids and trying to help them work through those social emotional outbursts, instead of just saying, okay, pass them on to the office, I don't have time for this. And then the fourth step, the learning and strategic improvement, installing a system-wide heat sensor and sprinkler system, to help prevent those fires. And then, the organizational analysis and innovation using fireproof and fire retardant materials so that, the things don't burn. So that was just a visual, I'm a visual person, so, I kind of feel like some days I'm here or maybe here, but I would like to be down here where we don't have the fires constantly, taking up so much of our time. So why must we change? We have got to change because right now, AC Williams, we were there Tuesday, making our turnaround plan for TEA. At Commerce Middle School, we have 5 areas that if we don't make some progress in this year, next year, we're gonna be writing a turnaround plan for CMS. These are those areas. At the high school, if we don't make some improvement in these 2 areas, next year, we're gonna be starting that whole phase at the high school. And I don't know about you, but that's not what I wanna do. I don't want a job where I'm writing turnaround plans. I want a job where I'm in there helping students, helping teachers, and giving our kids the very best education they can get. So we'll talk a little bit about AC Williams, we've talked about, they're already in the turnaround plan. We're not going to the next year because we are going to get out of it, and we are going to put these systems and processes in place to maintain that. We can't just, okay, we're gonna take care of these African Americans math and reading this year, and then the next year, whoo, okay, they're out of hot water, now who am I? We've got to make it something that we can sustain. Our Hispanics in math achievement, and then math and reading language arts growth. Reading language arts growth. Our white, math, reading language arts achievement, plus reading language arts growth. ECO-DIS, math achievement, math and reading language arts growth. And then continuously enrolled, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure what that column on that report is, but it's math achievement and then math, reading language arts growth.
I think that's kids that have been, in the accountability system at the same district for either 3 or 5 years.
Oh,
But I
okay,
may be
thank
wrong.
you. Okay. At the high school, you've got your white students, reading language arts and math achievement, and then your 2 or more races in reading language arts achievement. That means 2 years in a row, these groups have not grown, or been close to the mark. Hispanic in math achievement, and then at the high school, it was the EBs were on there. So that falls into that, our
ESL piece with.
yes, with the state level. The other thing we learned at the accountability, Mr. Drummond, you may already know this, is that RDA report that we've been working with leads on because of the disproportionality for African American SPED students and our EB students, that is about to go away. And all of that is going to be rolled into our A to F accountability system. So it's still gonna count, and we're gonna get the dings, but it's gonna hurt us here instead of being a separate report. So the state's gonna streamline that. So what is one of the things that you see is most common in every single one of these lines? Okay? Oh, what was that last word? Growth. Can we really definitively affect the way Rachel Copeland performs on that math test or that reading test? I mean, we can teach her and we can hope, but it's one day. What if her dog dies that morning before she comes? I'm gonna tell you, knowing Rachel Copeland, you're not getting anything out of her that day, if she even comes to school that day. So if she doesn't come to school and she doesn't make it up, she's an automatic failure. But what could we do for Rachel Copeland, not counting on that one day, that might help us?
We can track her growth through the year and let her be accountable for her growth.
Growth.
So she sees it.
Growth, yes. We can grow every child. We can grow Colton Putman, even though he may never pass a STAR test in his life, he can grow, and we can track that growth. And that growth is not based on one test, one day. That's based on the entire year. So personally, I think growth is a big area that we need to focus on, but again, that's my personal opinion, and I think we as a district have to decide what that big goal is gonna be coming from Mr. Drummond at the top. Because
Well,
we
if
can
everybody's
grow.
growing, then our achievement goes up, because more people are approaching, more people are meeting, more people are mastering, so it goes hand in hand.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, because if everybody's growing, not just the kids that are not passing, but
Everybody's
if everybody.
Because
those
then
who
do
are
we have to worry
accomplished
about these
meet,
little
then
subplops?
that's-
No, because they're all gonna be growing.
Right.
So that, I think that's huge, I think that will help us, we've already mentioned the RDA stuff down there, so just kinda keep that in mind as we go through some of this. But the Baldrige framework is the one that we went through in our class, and it looks at leadership, and it looks at your systems, and it looks at like 6 different areas. But for education, the main thing is encouraging that culture of innovation. Students have to be engaged. That is so hard for teachers these days, and I know Bluebonnet has engaging pieces. Some curriculum lends better than that than others, but engagement is huge. Improving our teaching methodologies and enhancing those learning opportunities. So that's kind of that whole cultivate, that culture of being innovative and getting our kids involved to want to be at school and to want to learn. The other part is leveraging data-driven decision making. We can't just say, oh, this is the newest, greatest, and latest, let's buy that, let's put it to work, and then the next year, somebody comes out with something else, oh, this is the latest and greatest. We have got to start looking at that data, and I'm thankful to hear that we're gonna get that training from Eduphoria, because even though I've been in there and I can look at some things and aware, I'm not savvy at all of the things that we can do. But we've gotta measure, we've gotta analyze, we've gotta look at trends, where we need to improve, and we've got to provide feedback for our staff. And so we've got to change that whole mindset of, it's not a gotcha. And I know Ms. Walker, I'm just gonna speak freely because we're in a safe place. She has just transitioned from the classroom into testing coordinator / coaching. And she has had some very tough conversations with some people that she's worked with over the past years. And I know it's been heavy on her heart because some of them are mad at her. They won't even speak to her. And it's because it's uncomfortable, because none of us like to be told, but they have to come to understand it's not that we don't like you and it's not personal, it's that what you're doing is not helping our students get to where they need to be. I'm trying to help you and identify how you can get better so that we can all be better. So that's that part. So now, the 5 top things is the executive leadership, and that's what we'll kind of start on today. And then we have to work our way down that strategic planning with our programs and even strategically staffing. Just because you've got a teacher in there doesn't always mean they're the right person for that particular spot. We've always, got to focus on our customers, what's best for our students, our climate, our culture, professional growth, that PD part of things, and then the results-oriented approach. What does the data say? Not how you feel about it, but what are those numbers telling you? Because I can honestly say, going through some of this, I was guilty in the classroom of, well, I'm doing the best I can, but my scores didn't always show. It's like, well, they're just kind of hard. No, something is misaligned. So this is what we will be going through the Baldrige framework. So I have done the assessment as a class project, but I have made it a Google form for you all. See if you can click on it and it's live. I hope it is. I did not ask for your name or anything, but if you would, the section 1 is all about leadership. 2, when you get down there, will be about the strategies that we use within the district. 3 are our customers, which are who? Students and
Teachers.
and parents, those parents too. 4 is measurement, analysis, and knowledge management, how we handle all of that. 5 is our workforce, which are our teachers, our paras, we can't forget about them because they're huge in what we do. 6 is operations, and then 7 are our results. So I'm gonna give you no more than 15 minutes to go through here and click on, for each one, just one box. Either you agree, undecided, disagree, etc. No, you have to leave it running. Okay? So I'm gonna set a timer, and you guys, is there anybody, raise your hand if you can't get into it.
It's still loading for me.
It's 3, 7, 10 minutes, I don't know. 10 minutes. 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 10 minutes.
engagement.
When everybody finishes, can you go back to, the Baldridge framework for just a second? I wanna talk about something briefly. You finish?
Mhm.
Do you know where we're at financially?
No.
Okay. Just
How many
checking.
thumbs
heads up if you're still working.
If you do ask them, I'm working, we do have
So that you know.
to, I can find out too.
I just said that you talk about it, which I feel like you do tell us on our campus. I just said agree.
Under the first bullet right there where it says engage students, I think the main thing we have to be careful of is understanding the difference between good teaching and good teaching with learning. Okay? I've evaluated a lot of teachers in my career, and I evaluated teachers that were great teachers, as far as their presentation and the way things look. But as an evaluator, you have to see that the kids are engaged in the lesson and participating in a lesson and what they're actually learning. And if teachers are not using a lot of questioning and checking for learning, then it's just a performance. It's not actually teaching and learning. It is just teaching. So that's just something that I picked up over the years. When I first started evaluating teachers, I would think a teacher was pretty good. But later in my career, that teacher, I thought, I looked at them differently, just because the teachers who are checking for learning and engagement and their teachers are actively participating in the lesson, those are the ones that are learning. So just make sure we're watching for that as a group.
I think Cindy helps with that. On my walkthroughs, I've been recording, and it really helps, cause it tells you that there's not questioning, they're not checking for understanding enough, how much the teacher's talking, but there's no
Yeah.
student engagement.
They don't give the
Although-
grace that the person gives.
Although, I learned the hard way well, not the hard way, I mean, I was in there, so obviously I knew, but, I used it this morning on a walkthrough, and I was in there for 20 minutes. And the teacher utilized the, HMH, where
Online.
it reads the story to them.
Oh, yeah.
And it picked up the story being read to them as the teacher. And when the teacher was talking, it called that the student. There was 0 student talk the entire time I was in there. The students did not talk, but it said that, oh, it was a good mix of student talk and teacher talk. I'm like,
It couldn't
no, what?
recognize automated versus.
Yeah, so I had to go back and
Yeah.
say, try again. That actually was the entire time just teacher talk. Oh, well, let me rephrase that. So then it redid all the AI stuff, like, oh, it was a different setting. Yeah.
But tell them what you did to get it to redo that, because if they've not experienced that, they won't know, may not know what to do.
So I just used that AI prompt, and then I went back and I said, this was actually, all of that blue is actually orange. So redo all the settings and try this again. And then it resubmitted the entire thing. And then it said, actually, this is not accomplished and proficient. This is actually developing and needs improvement. Okay, there we go.
That's such a
That's
good
much better.
example of why Sydney is a tool.
Yes.
Not,
Not your own.
Does not
Yeah.
take the place of the evaluator. That's such a good
Mhm.
example.
Yeah, so, are you planning on giving that teacher any feedback?
oh, yes.
Okay. I
Oh,
just
yes.
was wondering.
Didn't know.
I got the evaluation.
Already done. I can hit
Because
send at the
I
end
have
of the day,
heard
but.
that teacher thinks it went really well.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know. Because you need to be prepared for that, you know, whenever you have
Yeah.
that sit down, because they're coming in thinking, oh man, she's gonna tell me how good I am.
Yeah.
And then when you have to break it to them, so, but that's good, I'm glad, has anybody else, the new Sydney
Well, I've
program?
had really good experience with it, but I've also, a lot of ours have been developing.
Mhm.
And so in the AI part, you can type in, how can you make this
Yes.
accomplished?
Uh-huh.
And so then I put it all in a Google Doc, and then I put it at the bottom. So when the
Mhm.
teacher asks those questions, well, how do I get it?
Mhm.
Then it already lines it out, it gives you some
That's
ideas.
so good,
Good.
because sometimes,
Yeah.
like, if you don't have the experience of them, it's like, okay, how do I give them tools to grow? They're like, well, what can I do better? Let me see, talk
Yes.
to the kids more, you
Yeah.
know, like, but it gives you
But
those
it really
action,
helps.
it really gives you that feedback and those actions.
I'll have the teachers taking your feedback.
really good. I had one sad teacher, but I was trying to encourage her, like, hey, this
Right.
is just the first one. We're in the first 6 weeks. It's gonna get better.
Yeah, critiquing in an encouraging fashion, that's key, you know, just trying to help you.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I'm just trying.
We're
to
all in
help
this
the
together.
situation.
And I
Well,
think
then
changes
we
not
need
the end of it, this is just the
What is
beginning.
it called, better
It's
together?
gonna take
Yeah.
time.
That's what I'm just trying to say, we're better together, we're just trying to.
Quinn sent me, I did it, and then I showed the teacher the different reports, and I was like, is there one you wanna see?
Mhm.
And so then we talked about what the different reports said, and I was just like, you wanna see this? And she's like, I don't wanna actually see that one, don't show me that one. And I was like, "Well, I'm
But
gonna-"
it's been a positive
It
experience.
has been so
Good.
far, yeah.
Okay, is there anything else on that, Mr. Drummond, you wanted to address?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
So again, we are going to be continuously evaluating and looking for ways to improve. So, I guess we need to really start, my starting point is the effective leadership. Because it's gotta start at the top and it's gotta trickle down. And when it starts at the top on the campuses have to have the same message. You know, Miss Nellie can't tell her teachers one thing, and Miss O'Neill tell her teachers something else, and then Miss Copeland let her teachers go rogue. We have got to align that, and that's what Terrell did very well. They had one person from upper administration that worked with the campus leadership, and it was one voice from the very top all the way down to the parents. And it was the same message. I think their goal was 100% of our students will grow. And everybody looks at what they're doing, how am I affecting growth? How am I affecting growth? Every person in their little piece. So, you know, you need to be honest and open, you know, what are your needs? You know, what are some needs of the people, your campus, because I know we've got some new APs, we've got some new principals. You know, what are their needs? What do they need to be more effective, thinking about growing and having this excellent education for our students. Professional development, I know we've already mentioned Eduphoria. And thinking about how often are you in those classrooms? I will share with you what Terrell said. Everybody sitting down. They were very strategic, and their campus principal's goal was to be in classrooms 80% of the time. And I know that's huge because of ARDS and all the things. But they were very strategic with their calendars. They have a letter, and Sheila shared some of this stuff that went out to the office staff. You will not interrupt PLC, and you will not interrupt my classroom time. If a parent comes in upset, this is how you're gonna handle that. If this happens, this is how you're gonna handle that. And so they were so strategic in that they wouldn't just go in Ms. Copeland's class every day, beginning of her lesson. They scheduled it so they'd go in her class at the beginning of the lesson, a week or so later, they're in there at the middle of the lesson, another week or so, they're in there at the end, because you wanna make sure that that good teaching isn't just happening when you walk in, because some of them can put on a show for a little bit, but they can't make it last the entire time of that teaching. And the other thing that they did, because you say, okay, well, you know, they had a couple of campus coaches, a math coach and a reading coach. And if a teacher, say your teacher that you went to this morning was not doing a very good job, every day, those two people minimum went in that teacher's classroom. And they would stop and model and do whatever they needed to do in that moment to help that teacher get better. So the idea was, if you don't want me in your classroom, then you need to be doing what we've taught you to do and what the expectation is. And little by little, because they also had another goal that 80% of the time students would be engaged in those classrooms. Engagement was huge for them. So just putting tidbits out there as we think about our plan. So, you know, are there any obstacles that your campus administrators are facing? Because we've got to take care of you before you can take care of your teachers, before they can take care of our students.
It was very, are you asking for feedback now?
Sure.
In one of the sessions I went to, not the two that I've already mentioned, but another one was about 2 DISD schools. And Drummond even talked about this. How did DISD pull themselves out? And it was 2 high schools that are in the most poorest and high what is that called, a high crime rate, and they were about 400 students. And they were F across the board. He said there was not even a D or a C in sight. And they got so strategic by, he said, kid you not, for them to even walk in the hall, it was like an elementary school. Get in the line, walk in the hall. For them to go to the bathroom, cause he said a lot of mismanaged, or, go to the bathroom to vape or do all this. He said they had to put in a request in their Chromebook to even get a pass to go to the bathroom. We're not there yet, but I'm just saying that they went from an F to an A. And of course, he said we got trust back in the community because people weren't even sending their kid to that school because that's how bad it was just an F. And, but I think that's right. I mean, you have to hone in on what changes you wanna make. And, he said they don't office also in the front. They too are constantly out. I think the key is to be in the classrooms, which we are all in agreement of. And Drummond has charged us, me, Mike, and Jeannie. We're gonna now start, did you already cover that? The 5?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll let you do that. But we're, to do our walkthrough observations and just in that. But, interesting that you said that because those are some of the points that came in these turnaround schools.
Because if I'm sitting in that classroom, I mean, I went in a new teacher's room, and of course, I know the kids from Macy Williams, and of course, when I go in, it gets quiet. Even the high school, some of those kids didn't know me, but when I went in, it got quiet. And I was just hanging out literally those days, observing and just kind of picking up on some things. So if you think I'm sitting in there, and I know where those troubled kids are, do you think those kids are gonna be as hot of a mess as they are if I'm not in there? So the more we can be in there, not only are the teachers gonna be on top of their game, but the students are gonna be more engaged and they're gonna be less likely to be distracting and off task because we're sitting in there, which will automatically reduce office referrals. That was the thing Terrell said. They had over 700 office referrals the first 6 weeks of school. They implemented, I thought it was district-wide, but I think it might have been campus-wide. It was elementary, it's what are your bodies doing, your voice level, and one other thing. Those 3 things were what they always said. The next year, first 6 weeks, they had under 200 office referrals. But everybody had that classroom expectation, and we've talked about that, I know at the secondary before school started. But just some of those things that we need to think about and how we can structure this thing to make it work. Okay, so I'm gonna leave it at that. I will send you all a Google form or a way to gather the information about the needs of your campus and things so that then we can come back and talk about. And I'll also take the results of this. I'm not looking at any individual results. I'm looking at this as a whole to see what we need. When I did it, I found we were lacking systems. So it'll be interesting to see what y'all have, and then at a later date, we'll even take this down to the teacher level. But I know Mr. Drummond has some things he wants to share. So thank you for letting me present.
I think we're improving on systems. I think in the last 2 to 3 years, we've gotten better in some of our systems in place. But I know, like, for instance, using like the Ejiofor Axiom, it's one, I didn't even know, I mean, I've seen Axiom out there, but I didn't know what it could do for us. And I was glad that 2 different schools and 2 different districts said, hey, we've gotten this. But I also think it's like, sometimes I came from a school where they would give me a manual and everything was highlighted. Here we don't have the manpower. And 2, we also have the highlight of, we know our students. We truly know our students. And so, I'm glad to hear you say that, but I walk away with going, in us, I think it's more of improvement, of just trying to improve in an area to get better.
Right.
You know, cause I look, and we've had this conversation, with the AC Williams is, y'all work so hard and, and
Where they have campus.
but where did it
on me.
not, where did it not
Right.
show the growth?
Right.
So that way we can hone in on that. And
Yes.
it's a big thing to say, hey, we're putting you on notice, CMS and CHS, because it's the EBs, and I'm like, and that was a notice on me to get those level 3s, because we had never had it. I always thought, oh, we didn't have maybe even numbers, I don't know yet, but we will circle back, and what we learn, we're gonna teach y'all as well. And, and really include your people with, when we go to find out how can we, if it's the Hispanic and EB, what can we do, you know? Yeah,
Well,
besides just.
speaking for,
Summit
like the
K-12.
EB, that, I actually was talking to Jenny about this the other day, cause I don't know if we're doing it right or we're not doing it right, but we have one class that has 6 kids in there, and we're using Summit K-12.
Yeah.
But then the other kids that are not in that class period, they're just
And I
on the
think-
program.
I think that's part of the problem.
And
Yeah.
then we're telling our English teachers, okay, when they are done with all their other work, they need to log into this.
But there is.
Well, there's no
time.
fidelity to it.
Right.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know how to, again, looking at a master schedule, how to implement this to where it is more
And-
effective.
And I'm gonna be transparent.
Please.
I think when we hone in on our financial and we find out what BEA, the Bilingual Education Allotment Funds, really cover,
Mhm.
because